So you've clicked this video and you're wondering, how is it that my ego holds me back from becoming a better writer, regardless of what writing I want to do? And then the next question might be, ego? Really? Do I have an ego? And we all have a conception of what the ego is. We all think we know how to spot it, but whilst it might be really easy to see ego in others, or see where people's egos hold other people back, can we see it in ourselves? Can we self-reflect and see the ego? Of course that's not comfortable, and that's why the vast majority of us don't do it, and it's why the vast majority of writers don't make it. I fervently believe that the ego holds back a lot of good writing, or writing that could be easily improved. I think the best way to understand the ego is that it's an undue attachment to something. And that something can be anything. So we've all seen it in the gaming space, for example, where bad reviews come out for a game, or a game comes out and then people review bomb a game. The thing is, those bad reviews don't affect you personally. It's only when you make them affect you personally. That's an undue attachment to a game. Let's say you're seeing all this marketing for an upcoming game, it drops, and then it gets really bad reviews, and then you take personal offense to it. It is because you have undue attachment to the game, you have undue attachment to the outcome of that game, and that outcome being really good reviews and people enjoying that game the same as you. Of course, we see it with movies too. You might have noticed with Star Wars, for example, and the crazy fan base there. But we see it in writing as well. You can get an undue attachment. You can attach your self-worth to your writing. The thing to understand is that you will write poorly occasionally. No matter how great you get, no matter how good you get in your career or just down the line, you will write something that's not very good. And you just have to accept that about yourself. But if you are quite young, you do have to accept that you do not have the life experience yet, and you have to accept that other people know better. And when they give you feedback, and it's feedback that you don't like, you have to let go of that ego. You have to let go of that attachment, and you have to look at your work much more objectively. It doesn't mean that you become a robot and that you're completely unaffected by feedback or what people think of your writing, but it is very well worth analyzing how you handle feedback in the immediate term. That instant that you get feedback, it's worth analyzing yourself and seeing what comes up, because I noticed that in myself that when I was getting feedback, my initial reaction was always the same. It was always nah, it was always dismissive. And it was only later that I could reflect on and see, okay, that person was right. But that was too late. I'd already handed in that piece of work. Or if we're talking about my novel which I'm writing, I was only willing to implement a small piece of the feedback, whereas really I should have accepted the feedback as a whole, and I should have done a lot of changes. But the other problem with attaching your self-worth to your writing is that it's very easy to see attacks in anything that attacks your writing, or anything that you perceive as attacking your writing, because you're colored by the immediate reactions that you get, because that initial reaction is the undue attachment that you have to your writing or how you see yourself as a writer. And I think we've all had this where you put in a lot of time and effort into a piece of writing, you get feedback which isn't good, and you see it as an attack on your time. You look back at all the time that you put in, and it's very easy to see all of that as a waste because you put in so much time, so much effort, and the end result just isn't very good. So it could well be the fact that the time and effort you've put in the past is a waste, but if you do not take that feedback on and you don't try to improve yourself, in the future you will put in more time and more effort, and it will all go to waste. And this is exactly what happened to me for many, many years with my writing, and it's why my writing only glacially improved. Because I saw myself as a writer first and foremost, any feedback that was negative attacked my image, attacked me as a writer, and that could safely be discarded. I could simply go on and not take on that feedback. But once you start making the conscious decision to evaluate how you handle feedback, you can begin the process of analyzing each piece of feedback that you get. Because the thing is, regardless of the feedback that I got, and some of the feedback just wasn't very good, it wasn't very effective, but the main problem was, and you might see this now in yourself, is that if you handle every piece of feedback the same, you will miss the good bits of feedback, and good feedback is hard to come by. It might be that you hand out your piece of work to 5 people and only 1 feedback is good, but that's the thing, that feedback is absolutely essential to you. But that's the thing, we're all going to get feedback, and we've received feedback in the past, which just isn't very helpful. It's just not very good. You know it's not very good. But if you react the same way, if you see yourself as a writer, if you attach your ego, your self-worth to your writing, you'll give the same weighting to all feedback, even though that one bit of feedback could set you free. And of course, this does come down to the language you use. If you see yourself as a writer, if you identify as a writer, you'll identify a list of things that a writer is supposed to be, and any feedback which possibly threatens any of those things you ascribe to as being a writer, you will then dismiss because it attacks who you are at your very core. But if you just see yourself as someone who just happens to write, and there's many other things that make you up, and if someone gives really critical feedback, it's then only a small portion of you that's quote unquote getting attacked. To wrap this up, I really do feel that if you see yourself as a writer, you describe yourself as a writer, and you have a set of ideals about what a writer is and what a writer should be, not only do you box yourself in, you lock yourself out of the feedback that ultimately will set you free, and you lock yourself out of a journey that will let go of a lot of bitterness that will happen. Because as you get older, and if your writing doesn't improve, or the feedback that you're getting doesn't improve, you will inevitably calcify yourself and just become more bitter. And that's pointless. You're only wasting your own time at that point. And so yeah, I hope that's helped you understand how ego holds you back as a writer. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, rate and share, all the good stuff. Definitely helps my channel, and I'll see you guys next time.